Hello everyone, welcome to another Modest Musings. Today is April 6th of 2018, and today's topic is going to be about being vanilla. Being vanilla, that word, that kind of phrase, usually has a pretty negative connotation, I think. People usually associate it as being very bland, very uninteresting, being boring. And I kind of say being vanilla, but really what I actually mean is just being friendly and not being edgy. And the value that actually I think comes with that people seem generally aware of, but I feel like doesn't get stated outright nearly as often as maybe sometimes it should be. I don't know, it's kind of weird to say should be, but anyways. So one thing that I've realized in life, if you guys don't know, I don't think that I'm a very vanilla person. I think that I put my thoughts out there and stuff, but I feel like I'm generally a pretty friendly person. The people that really know me think that I'm like a little shit, which it's like Zombie Grub and Olivia and like Cyan and a few other people and stuff. But like overall, I'm a pretty friendly person, I would say. If you disagree with me, feel free to let me know, as I'm sure you will. But it's not been something that I did intentionally to improve, I guess, like my opportunities or anything. But it's something that I've kind of after the fact realized has opened a lot of doors for me. Or I should say it avoids closing a lot of doors as well. Now, a lot of people will think of like the super obvious examples of, oh, if you say something as like a broadcaster that's like too edgy, let's say I started dissing on, I don't know, like Intel or something, right? And then Intel says, oh, well, we don't want this guy working with our brand because he's like talked a lot of mad trash about us or something. Obviously, there's like the correlation of, oh, well, you were being edgy, so something bad happened over here. But I think there's another thing that I've realized about just not necessarily being bland, but just being a kind of nice person to be around that holds a lot of value that a lot of people I feel like underestimate is just when you're just someone that people like hanging around or people like having around, it opens a lot of doors. And this is not just in esports, this is in life in general. All right. I actually feel like I'm a pretty good person for interviews, job interviews and stuff. I have done a lot of job interviews. Like my philosophy has been inherited from how my mom told me how to do college applications, which was, well, Ravi, I don't know if you're going to get into any colleges, so we're just going to have you apply to like 40 of them. And one of them won't realize that you're probably not a good person to have at a school. But one of them will accept you, probably, hopefully, at least one. So that kind of philosophy, obviously I'm kind of joking a little bit to an extent, but yeah, like that kind of philosophy is how I also do job applications a lot of the time. Like I come up with a huge list of companies that I'd be interested in or like at least okay with working at. And I would do a massive number of them. So I got very good at this. Is a lot of skills that are like specific to being a good interviewer as opposed to being good at the job and stuff, which I'm not going to go into right now. But one of the things that I've also realized that is very difficult in interviews because your tendency is going to oftentimes be to just be very rigid and be like exactly what you think they want you to be. And I found that usually more often than not, just literally being a normal human being and being yourself is actually one of the best things you can do. And when I say that being yourself and stuff, I mean, a lot of the time, the people that are going to be interviewing you, this is not always the case. I interview for positions of software developers and stuff, right? Or I work with people in esports, and esports casting doesn't really have job interviews so much because it's usually just sending like talent reels and stuff, or you develop a relationship with people. But for software developers, oftentimes the people interviewing me, there are some interviews with like managers or whatever, but like most of the time it's like other engineers. It's like people I will be working with, or when I'm doing casting stuff, or like if people are referring me for jobs for casting gigs or opportunities or like talking well of me, usually it's people that I am working with or have worked with in the past or things like that. So when I am just a normal human being and I'm interacting with them in the way that a normal human being would, not just being super front face bland or being just a complete asshole or a douchebag or something at like a lot of these events or things like that, that in and of itself holds a lot of value. And being able to like connect with people over, hey, yeah, like I list on my resume that I do StarCraft commentary, not because it has any value whatsoever toward software development stuff, or I list that I've done martial arts for like 17, 18 years at this point. And it's not about the fact that it directly holds value towards software development or something. I'm not saying I have gained this discipline from doing martial arts for 18 years and therefore my code will be more robust. Like, no, it's not like that. It's just kind of putting out parts of my character and like who I am as a person out there and sharing that and connecting with people. Because people, ultimately, this is the underlying thing. People want to work with people that they like. This is like just going to be a fact of life, all right? If you have a choice between two people that are equally skilled and one of them you like as a person and one of them you don't like as a person, you're probably going to go with the person you like. That's an obvious situation. But what I have found is that a lot of the time, just in general in life, in esports and job interviews, in pretty much almost everything, if you have a situation where, and this is going to be for varying degrees depending on the person, but if you have a situation where one person is like, let's say on a skill level, they're like a 6, and you like them a lot. You think that they're a really fun person to be around, or they're just like an enjoyable person to be around, right? And then you have another person who's maybe a 7 on the skill scale. So they're 1 higher, or maybe even like 2 higher. Maybe they're an 8 or something. But they're not as fun to be around. There's like something about just socially interacting with them. It's not that they're bad at communicating when it comes to the job or anything, but just socially, you don't really feel that connection to the click. I found that most people will actually go with the person who's maybe a little bit lower skilled, but they get along with, because they realize that being happy around the people that you're working with is also a very valuable thing, because it makes your life more enjoyable. If you're going to be constantly, for example, at work, surrounded by this person, they're always going to be there while you're working, you want it to be someone that you get along with. You want it to be someone that makes your work more enjoyable, because when you're enjoying your work, you're most likely going to feel more okay putting in more time into work and all that kind of stuff. There's going to be less butting heads for random small issues and stuff that aren't really as important. So this is one of the lessons that I feel like I've learned, that I also think that people tend to underestimate. So the kind of takeaway here I feel is, one, if you're doing job interviews and stuff, I can't really speak for like the super hyper corporate, be very rigid and strict thing, but I do feel like even in those environments, there's a lot of value in kind of being okay with putting a bit of your personality out there. It's okay to not just be super bland. I know I kind of open all this stuff talking about like being vanilla and stuff, but really, I don't mean actually being vanilla. I just mean not being an asshole or not being a douchebag. It sounds like the most obvious advice in the world. Like, guys, did you know that people will probably be more okay with working with you if you're not an asshole or a douchebag or like an edgelord, right? That sounds super obvious, but I really do think that people underestimate it, and how it can have a profound impact in opening up opportunities that maybe you already have the skill level for, but other people will end up seizing those opportunities because people just think, well, I would rather just work with that person because they're more enjoyable to be around. This isn't something I really based any of my like decision making. Like, I'm not trying to be a better person or something so that I can get these opportunities, or I'm not trying to like censor myself constantly. I think this is something that I've more just realized going through life, is that the personality that I have, I guess my parents raised me with and stuff, moral values, I don't know, whatever you want to call it. However, I ended up nature nurture into my situation. I feel like I am a generally maybe not super fun person to be around, but I'm like a nice person. I don't think I rub most people the wrong way. So I realize that has opened up a lot of opportunities, not just like not closed doors. It's like actually opened up opportunities. And I think that it's also possible to be a nice person without being bland or vanilla. I think this is a huge misnomer, especially in esports, where people just associate people who are very nice or normal as being vanilla, as they don't have personality. They're very plain. There's not anything very interesting about them. And they associate being edgy or saying things that are very, I guess, controversial as having personality. And I feel like that's actually I don't really feel like that's true. I would say that there are a lot of people out there that are nice and they're jovial people and stuff who I feel like differentiate each other or differentiate themselves from each other as well. Like I compare a lot of things about, say, let's take like a good example. Smix. Smix is a really good example of someone who's very fun, very awesome, very energetic and jovial and stuff. The way that Smix is a really fun person to be around and also, I guess, like a nice person to be around is incredibly different from the way that, say, Pig is a very fun and nice person to be around. They have very different personalities. I wouldn't call either one of them very bland or unentertaining or anything like that, but they're both still very fun and nice people, and in very different ways. I feel like you can have that kind of characteristics and characterization of yourself conveyed to people without being vanilla, if that makes sense. So I guess that's kind of like a two-parter topic, talking about like that. I think the whole concept of being vanilla is sometimes over-exaggerated to people that aren't really vanilla. And also just that being a nice person has a lot of benefits, guys. It sounds like really obvious advice, but I seriously think people seem to like not realize it or forget it a lot. So yeah, thank you guys so much for tuning in. I hope you decide to be a nice person, not just because it'll open up opportunities, but because it'll open up your heart. And yeah, keep starking. News-wise, I'm also going to be casting Tespa this coming weekend, which is today's Friday, so tomorrow. I'm casting Tespa tomorrow. I'm flying down to Southern California. Well, that unfortunately does mean that I'm not going to be casting the first day of the WCS NA qualifiers. I will be casting the second day of it, though, because I'm going to be getting off of a flight, getting home, and then immediately setting up for a broadcast like an hour later or something. So that'll be fun. I might be in a bit of a weird spot mentally from like traveling and all that stuff, but it's going to be NA StarCraft, so I'm not really going to be complaining. So yeah, check that out and keep an eye on my Twitter for other updates of things to come. I have stuff going to be announced soon, so looking forward to that. And see you guys next time. Keep StarCrafting.